Hunter Biden, the son of US President Joe Biden, has been indicted on federal firearms charges. The White House has broken its silence, saying the president loves his son and is supporting his son. Johnny B now live to discuss this is Dean of Global Futures at Curtin University, Professor Joe Siracusa. Professor, great to see you.
Great to see you, Geneva.
Look, how do you see this playing out? Because this is quite interesting. What do you think happens from here on in?
Well, this is a very interesting week for the president. Not only is his son going to go on trial, he's been officially indicted. And there was supposed to be a deal a couple of weeks ago where they were going to sort of forgive some things and no prison time or anything, but that's gone by the by. And then we've got the inquiry is starting in the House of Representatives for possible impeachment, articles of impeachment. And of course, all you really need to get an impeachment going is 218 votes. You know, nothing's, it's just about numbers. It's like Australian Parliament. You need numbers. And then, of course, you have the United Auto Workers who are going on strike. These are 13,000 men and women in key cities or in key states that are crucial to the president's reelection. And, you know, these people create 5 and 6 jobs, you know, the multiplier effect. So it could have a major effect on everything. So it's a very big week for him, and he's got to figure out what to do. Now, sure, he loves his son. We all love our kids. But they can get you in a hell of a lot of trouble. And look, I know he's had a drug problem, and you know, God bless him. You know, everybody has demons.
Of course.
But when you start to use the old man's name, and the old man sits on the phone call, and you're making millions of dollars in Ukraine when your father's in charge of Ukraine policy, when you're making millions of dollars from a Chinese firm when you're using your father's name, I mean, what it does is it beggars belief that they could be that stupid. And you know, I like to think that when people are really corrupt, they think everybody else can't see them. Well, they can't see them. You know, the president's worth probably $80, $90 million, and the kid was kind of making his way up the chain. And he got his father in a lot of trouble. Now, Richard Nixon's brother did these kinds of things. Bill Clinton had a brother like this. They're all, even Ronald Reagan had kids who were trying to cash in on his name. But this looks, to most Americans, as influence peddling.
Right.
And then that's where I think they'd like to call a halt. But these are all going to feed on each other. The Hunter Biden thing, the lead up to the trial will be about the same time as we have an election, and then it's going to feed into the impeachment proceedings, and so they all feed off of each other.
Well, just on that then, what do these charges mean for President Biden, if anything, and what does it mean then in the lead up to the 2024 campaign?
Well, the Hunter's on charges of having lied on his gun application, and that's usually a year in a slammer in Chicago and in Boston. You know, you can't lie to get a gun these days, and he's done a few other things where he's perjured himself, and these will, I think, corrupt into other things. They're going to start looking. You know, the people who are investigating the president will start to unpack now all the investigations into Hunter, which have been going on for years. Imagine that, having enough time and money in government to spend years looking at the president's son, or anybody, as a matter of fact. Extraordinary dedication, as a matter of fact. So they'll try to find something. Could they impeach the president? Nah, they don't have enough votes in the Senate. So you say, why do it? Well, because they wanted to. This is impeachment is the new blood sport in America. It's like bullfighting. You know, they just go after each other. And this guy's in trouble, and he probably might even do some prison time. So we have a president who's aging by the day. And he's going to run up against a guy. Both Americans don't like either one of them as candidates, actually. And he's running up against a guy who's under indictment in 4 states, who may be in jail. And of course, you can run your prison. You can run your presidential campaign from prison. So you know what could possibly go wrong? We got a president who's unfolding. We have an ex-president who's facing 4 trials, and everyone wants to put him in the slammer. And the president's got a kid who's unraveling in public. And you know, you've been to Washington. You know what the intensity there is. You know, once they start coming for you, it's like a shark in a bathtub. You know, they're going to find you sooner or later. So I think there's enormous pressure on the president's team to just get through this. You know, and Biden is old and getting older. What I mean is...
which, I mean, you and I have discussed that before as well, about his age. But just going back on that, though, I just think it's interesting that we're in a time where both Hunter Biden and Donald Trump now have something in common.
Yes, they have something in common. But I think Hunter had a little more fun. You know, Hunter was about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I don't think Trump had that much fun with his problems. He's just straight corruption issues, as a matter of fact. You know, and they say he degraded American democracy. Look, President Trump hasn't done anything that presidents haven't done in the past. And the president's son, God bless him, hasn't done anything that people haven't succumbed to after drugs and that kind of thing. President Biden, of course, is in a very tough spot. 70% of the American Democrats don't want him to run again, you know, for himself and for and it's not just the president. If the president wins, everybody wins on the down ticket. So they don't want to see their era come to the end because the president has come to a sticky end. So, but the Biden thing feeds into the impeachment. The impeachment thing then is juxtaposed next to President Trump's troubles. And so what America is doing, it's watching as the world turns. It's the great soap opera, Washington politics, presidential politics. This is why Wall Street can ignore Washington because it make a lot of money because it's about the soap opera. And so, on the other hand, as you know, you go around the world, people count on the leader of the free world to make decisions. And to who's going to take on the North Koreans, who's going to take on the Russians, who's going to at least take on the Chinese, who's going to do anything, or the Iranians. And so the presidency is consumed by domestic politics and the fires of domestic politics. And, you know, you keep thinking, and I've been here a long time, and I look at America for a long time, you keep thinking, who's in the wings to come and rescue this situation? And there are very few people who are making themselves available. There are a lot of talented people.
Of course.
But who the hell wants to run for president if you're going to have that kind of scrutiny on your life?
Yeah.
Because
well, it's interesting. But before we let you go, though, I do want to ask you, what does the polling suggest? I mean, what's the sentiment in the United States? You've lived there most of your life. You know people there. What are you being told about how people feel about having the indictment with President Trump? We now have a situation where the president's son is being indicted on felony charges. What's the mood like? How are people feeling about this?
They've sort of taken fixed positions. About 70% of the American public, those are those who vote, don't want either one of these people to run. The trouble is that there's no one to knock them off in these primaries. And Americans are looking at politics in Washington as though it's not going to solve their problems. America's a little bit like Italy. It kind of works at the regional level. You know, it can run pretty well without things going on in Washington. On the other hand, you need a leader in any organization or in any country. So while Americans have sort of given up on politics, and I remember a woman wrote in the New Yorker in 2016. She said that Trump's critics take him seriously, but not literally, whereas his supporters take him literally, but not seriously. And so, you know, we got people who are looking at things in different ways. But who is president of the United States, the 47th president, is important because it keys the rest of the world, as a matter of fact. So I think the presidency is the most important office in the world, and who sits, man or woman sits in that office, will determine everything else. And at the end of the day, is it worth the scrutiny? Is it worth the effort and the pain and all the rest of it? I think it is.
Well, look, we keep saying this, Joe. It's going to be an interesting run to 2024, and we'll be getting your analysis as it happens. So thank you so much for joining us, as per normal. Thank you. Thank you.